in Black baseball history. This is Phil Dixon, baseball historian, coming to you live again tonight, talking about incidents that happened today in Black baseball history. Of course, today is October 9th, 2025. So we're going to look at some stuff that happened on October the 9th throughout history. Tonight, we're going to pick up some things from 1910 and go to about 1960. So we don't have a lot that we're going to do tonight, but we're going to cover everything. And of course, I do This Day in Black Baseball History, and then what I do is give you some commentary afterwards. And a new feature I'm going to be doing now, it's going to be called Coming and Goings. And so I'm going to talk about ball players who were born on this date and people who passed away on this date and give you a little more commentary on them. So I'm going to start that feature, and I'm going to put one in here tonight, but eventually that's going to be a separate feature. I'll probably start working on that real quick. And so you'll start to see those coming live every night as well. So let's jump back right in here. Again, my name is Phil Dixon. I go by Phil S. Dixon. I'm an author, historian with over 45 years experience in this genre. And I've been doing history for a long time. And I started in the days when you had to go back to the library and go through microfilm. And then also, in addition to that, we had to go to the National Archives just to do genealogy, sit in a room and get the sound decks and all this kind of stuff. And so you had to really roll your sleeves up and you had to really want it back then. It's a lot easier for guys now, and you can search on some things. There's a lot of newspapers online, but a lot of us had to really work to bring this history to the forefront. And so I'm still out here bringing history to the forefront. So just want to tell you about a few things that were going through my list of things tonight. So just give a few moments and maybe a few people will join in, and we'll jump right in. Okay, so let's go to work. Okay, so we're going to look at Sunday, October the 9th, 1910. And it says the Manhattan Colored Giants defeated the Comet Athletic Club at Princess Bay, Huguenot, Staten Island in a lopsided 14-4 win. Dawson and Fuller, first names unknown, formed the winning battery. Now, what's interesting, I talk a lot about this Colored Giants, and of course, if you follow me anytime, you know that I have a couple of uniforms that just say Giant on them. And the reason why I have those uniforms, because once upon a time, they didn't always give the ethnicity of the team. And if they did give the ethnicity, it was usually say the Negro or colored or something like that. But at some point, they wanted people to know the difference. And so they began to name many, many teams in communities all over the United States as the Giants. Of course, one of the first professional teams, of course, the Cuban Giants, and just went on from there. Actually, I could make a good case to say, and somebody might want to look this one up, that the name Giants actually came from the African American baseball experience. Of course, people think about the New York Giants today, but actually the Cuban Giants predated those guys. So this is history that you need to know. So all of these Giant teams are typically, if it's not the New York Giants, it's going to be an African American activity. All right. And they did the same thing with theaters. Usually when you see something called a Chautauqua, that was also pretty much African-American related. So a lot of connection here. So anyway, I always like to find a lopsided win. And so this one took place in 1910, 14-4. And it was up there in Staten Island. So there's another Giant team, the Manhattan Colored Giants. Okay. All right. So we're going to jump across. Let's go to October 9th, 1932, and John Nick Stanley, pitcher for the New York Black Yankees, tossed a 3-0 no-hitter in the second game of a doubleheader at South Orange, New Jersey. When I look for facts years ago, when I started putting this spreadsheet together, and that's what I'm looking at, a personal spreadsheet that I've been working on for maybe 20, 25 years. Whenever I find interesting things, I would just go to my spreadsheet and I would put them in. So I always look for no-hitters. And so you're going to hear me talk about a lot of no-hitters. These black pitchers threw a lot of no-hitters. And of course, when I came along and they were talking about no-hitters, you had no idea that some of these guys had tossed so many. I know I've even read where they said Bill Gatewood tossed over 20 no-hitters. Now I haven't been able to find all 20, but I found about 7 or 8 that he's tossed, and he was a pretty good pitcher. So these are guys who are making monumental achievements in baseball with hardly any recognition. And these were men who truly played for the love of the game, regardless of the pay. And they made baseball famous all over America. And so that's the reason why I love talking about them so much. Okay, so John Neck Stanley. Who was John Neck Stanley? Well, I'll tell you this. He pitched for the New York Black Yankees. One thing I remember, I wrote a book about the Dizzy and Daffy Dean Barnstorming Tour. And it's actually the name of the book is The Dizzy and Daffy Dean Barnstorming Tour, Race, Media, and America's National Pastime. If you're not a baseball fan, you're still going to love that book. It's got all kind of interesting information in there that has nothing to do with baseball. It has a lot to do with the personalities of the people who were involved in the game. So I talk a lot about that in that book, and that's one of the reasons why people really enjoy that book. But John Neck Stanley pitched against Dizzy Dean's All-Stars, and I guess they decided they wanted to bring in someone special, and they brought in Ducky Medwick. And of course, Ducky played for the St. Louis Cardinals in '34, was part of that championship team. So he joined the Deans up there, and they played against the New York Black Yankees. And John Neck Stanley struck him out 4 times. And guess what? The guy only struck out maybe 30 times in the entire National League season. And John Neck Stanley got him for 4 strikeouts in 1 game. Just imagine the talent that we missed and that the world missed by not having these guys in the records. And then there's people who had the nerve to want to say that maybe we shouldn't even merge the statistics. But I can tell you this, man, these guys should have never not been in the statistics. And the statistics that were out there, are they really legitimate without these guys in them? That's one of the questions that we have to ask. So anyway, that's John Neck Stanley, just an outstanding pitcher. Of course, in 1932, he's pitching a no-hitter. And then, of course, I talk about what he did to Ducky Medwick in 1934. And okay, let's go to, got a couple of more. It's not going to be a long broadcast tonight. This is October 9th, 1932. So we're still in 1932. Lefty Holmes, tossing them, Holmes, H-O-L-M-E-S, tossing them up for the Baltimore Black Sox, won a 9-6 victory over the White All-Stars at Baltimore's Bugle Field in the second game of a doubleheader. One of the hits he allowed was a home run to Hack Wilson of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Because it was game 2 of that day's activities, the game lasted for the official 5 innings before it was called. Okay, so Lefty Holmes. Now that's another guy. He pitched for the Philadelphia Stars also. That was during the period they had Webster McDonald and Slim Jones, who were 2 really, really good pitchers. So he didn't get a lot of media, but he was a darn good pitcher. And you can see right here, he's beating these Major League All-Stars. And he did give a home run up to Hack Wilson, but a lot of people gave a home run up to Hack Wilson. I'm trying to think. Someone correct me. See, I'm always talking from memory. Some of this stuff I need to actually dig a little deeper before I come on, but I never know what's going to bounce in my mind. But I think, didn't Hack Wilson have like 191 RBIs in one season? Somebody looked that up. He had a bunch in 1 year. But Hack Wilson, he played many games against African-American teams. I remember there was a game he played, I'm not sure which team. I think it was the Pittsburgh Crawfords, and it was in York, Pennsylvania. And he got put out of the game because he was cussing too much. He was very unhappy with some of the calls. He started cursing. They put him out the game. So he could be vulgar as well. So that was Hack Wilson. And Hack Wilson, I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame, but he was a pretty good player in the 1930s. So to give up a home run to Hack Wilson is no shame, but to win the game was quite an accomplishment. And I think we should talk a little bit more about Lefty Holmes, H-O-L-M-E-S. All right. So let's go to 1948, October 9th, 1948. You probably heard of this guy. I certainly did growing up. Larry Doby homered with a 400-foot shot off Johnny Sane to give the Cleveland Indians a 2-1 lead and an eventual 8-3 victory in the 4th game of the World Series. Boy, Larry Doby was a great player. I had a chance to meet Larry Doby. I think somewhere around here I have something signed by him, probably more than one thing. Interesting guy to talk to, very congenial, uh, nice guy. That's what I would say. And he was pretty much he loved baseball. He did play. Hey, this guy also played in Japan. In case of anybody who's international listening to this broadcast, and so that was Larry Doby. I had a chance to meet Doby. I'm going to say maybe the first time was in 1989. We did an old timers game in Kansas City, and it just so happens that these Negro League tribute nights that they give around the country, and they bring back. Well, they can't bring back many Negro League players anymore. I think they bring them. They're down to 2 or 3 now. But it used to be they would bring a bunch of guys in that were in the area, and then they would give them a special night. Well, Larry Doby was at the first one that we ever assembled, and I was part of that. And so we were able to get Larry Doby there, got Hank Aaron there, and Ernie Banks was there. Lou Boudreau was there. I'm trying to think. Bob Gibson was there. We had Lou Brock was there. We had quite the lineup for that old timers game. We had some pretty good Negro leaguers there as well. I remember Othello Renfro was there. A lot of people don't know Othello Renfro was married to my cousin Juanita. They got married in Norburn, Missouri. So he was actually a part of my family. And of course they got a divorce later on, but he definitely was part of my family. And so I always like to talk to him because he had those connections. He knew many of my relatives that I was too young to know. Some of them had passed away, but yeah, and he was the shortstop. Renfro was the shortstop for the Kansas City Monarchs in 1945 when Jackie Robinson was on the team. So I learned about Jackie Robinson's time with the Kansas City Monarchs firsthand from Renfro and then also Sammy Haynes, and both of them were from Atlanta. An interesting thing about Renfro also played football too at Clark University. So just some good stuff going on. So anyway, that's Larry Doby. And Larry Doby, of course, a lot of people know him as being the second modern day African American player and the first in the American League. So he came up the same year Jackie did, but Jackie was in the National League, and he came up first, and then Larry Doby was signed by the Cleveland Indians, and of course he ended up being with the Indians. So anyway, this guy's a good hitter. He's a good hitter, and man, a 400-foot shot. And what's interesting is, I remember I used to have a teacher when I was in middle school, and he was a big baseball fan, and he used to always say, "Spahn and Sane pray for rain," and that was his little thing he used to always tell me about. Spahn, I was talking about Warren Spahn and Johnny Sane, and pray for rain, and they were a couple of really good pitchers during that time. So anyway, that's a little story. Okay, so that's a little bit of the facts that I want to give tonight, and as always, it's been my pleasure to meet some of these people and know some of them, and I'm going to mention the next one. And this is, I'm not going to do a going tonight, but I'm going to do a coming. And so, no, I'm going to do a going. So this is someone who passed away. So on October 9th, 1960, Oscar Heavy Johnson of Atchison, Kansas, not too far from me, I've presented there many times, he passed away in Cleveland, Ohio. So there we go from the Cleveland American League team right there to Cleveland, Ohio. Now, I'm not sure where he's buried. I know his family was in Atchison originally, and that's where he was. He left Atchison and joined the I think the 24th Infantry, and of course at that particular time, if you went into the military, there were 4 African American units. There was the 9th and 10th Cavalry, the 24th and 25th Infantry. So you're going to be in one of those units. And so he went and joined the military, left Atchison, and of course he ended up being in the Philippines and played with some pretty good people. He played with Bully Rogan, of course, and oh man, Bob Fagan was on that team. Who else was on that team? Fred Goliath was on that team. He was out of Chicago, played for the 1911 Chicago Leland Giants. Those Walter Doby Moore, can't forget him, out of Atlanta, Georgia. He was on that team. And they had a pretty good, strong military unit. Now, they also had a guy named William Big C. Johnson. Now, Big C. Johnson played for Harrisburg in the Eastern Color League later on. But I had a chance to interview him. He lived in New York, in Harlem. And back in the early 80s, we would talk on the telephone, and I got a chance to know William Big C. Johnson personally. And I learned some really great things about Oscar Johnson and all those guys who were in that unit. And he shared pictures with me. Actually, I have one that he gave me of the 24th Infantry, one of the units, and of course Lemuel Hawkins was also, remember, the Kansas City Monarchs later on played for the Chicago Giants, and Lemuel Hawkins was also in that team, and he's in the picture that William Big C. Johnson gave me. So yeah, interesting thing about Oscar Johnson, man, this guy had a great year in 1922. Now, you've heard of Babe Ruth, but you probably never heard of Heavy Johnson. Heavy Johnson, man, he just tore. I think this guy must have batted 400 in 1922. He had a pretty good year in 23 also. But in 1922, at the end of the year, they had an exhibition series, and Babe Ruth came to Kansas City, him and a guy named Wally Shagg, a catcher, and they played a game against the Kansas City Monarchs, and before the game, Babe Ruth was hitting shots out of old Association Park. And of course, when the game started, he had to face Bullet Rogan and Rube Curry, two outstanding pitchers. And Babe, the best the Babe could do, and that Kansas City had a little park too. Bunny Brief hit a ton of home runs out of Kansas City's park, that old Association Park. But the best they could do, Mr. Babe Ruth, was to get 4 singles off of Bullet Rogan and Rube Curry in 4 times up. So Babe Ruth, who was a great pitcher at one time, decided that he was going to delight the fans. And so he went to the mound to pitch. And guess who hit a home run off of Babe Ruth? Oscar Heavy Johnson. Now, to show you that he was legitimate, the week before, I think it was the week before the Babe got here, a guy named, what was his name? Oh, shucks, I'll call his name. He was the underhead pitcher that killed Ray Chapman. Oh, shucks, I'll call his name in a minute. He had been here the week before, and Carl Mays, that's what his name was, Carl Mays. So Carl Mays came into Kansas City pitching exhibition, and Oscar Johnson hit a home run off of him. So this guy, he was legitimate. And many of these players were legitimate, guys. I'm telling you, the fact that they merged the statistics and people are complaining, man, you're just complaining because you don't have anything better to do. But these guys were great players, and I'm going to keep on proclaiming it here. And guys, whoever wants to listen can keep on listening. And so that's my story, and I'm not going to change it. So that kind of wraps us up tonight. Short broadcast. We're going to get out here in about 18 minutes. But I do want to say, hey, if you like what I'm doing and you think that it's important to keep this going, go ahead and hit that bell so I can get a subscription, or so you can subscribe by hitting that bell. And then come back from time to time and take a look. Or if you're really a baseball fan, if you really love baseball and you love the history of baseball, come on back all the time, because I can tell you about, many things. And so tonight we talked about John Next Stanley, we talked about Lefty Holmes, we talked about Larry Doby, and of course we talked about Oscar Heavy Johnson. So we put in a lot of work tonight. And so I want to thank you all for coming. So it's been my pleasure again, as always, but I'm new to this venue. This is about I'm going on 3 months, so we're getting a lot of stuff. I'm coming up on 80 videos that between the shorts and the lives, I'm probably well over 100 broadcasts, but we're just pumping it out. A lot of history, and I just want to share some of these stories with you that never appeared in books. Matter of fact, as I go away, I was just thinking about Oscar Johnson. I just remembered his wife's name. He got married to a lady named Juanita, and they got married in Atchison, Kansas. I think that was maybe in 1921 or something like that. Wait a minute, I got one last story for Oscar Johnson. When I was looking for him, back in the old days, what I would do is, if I was traveling through a town, I would go to like a phone booth. And so if I'm looking for Oscar Johnson or somebody like that, I would go and tear the page out of the phone book that had all the Johnsons on them. And so then I would come back to Kansas City, and of course back then they would have the the last name, then they have address and things like that, so I could find the zip code. And I would write all these people who had the last name of Johnson, say, "Are you kin to Oscar Johnson?" But I remember I called one lady, and her husband's name was Oscar Johnson, and I asked, was she the one kin to Oscar Johnson, and she knew the other Oscar Johnson because people used to get her husband confused with the baseball player. But Oscar Johnson, the baseball player, kind of lived a kind of rough life afterwards, and he was involved in a lot of stuff probably shouldn't have been. And her husband was a good Christian man, and so she said, "Hey, that is not my husband. He gets confused with him all the time." So she straightened me out. And but that's how I used to find people. We didn't have all this internet and all this stuff, man. I would just go into town, tear a page out the phone book, man. That's old school here. But hey, that's how we got started, and that's one of the reasons why the Negro baseball leagues are famous today. Nobody does that anymore, but that's what we had to do 40 years ago to get this history and to get this legacy going. And today it is indeed a legacy. So thank you, guys. I'm out of here for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll think of some more stories, whatever comes to mind. I never know. Who was thinking about those letters I wrote to Oscar Johnson? So anyway, we'll go from there. Have a nice evening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.